Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you come from a remote place, you send your child to the only school in the vicinity. It's close, it's familiar, and the only place where your child can learn your language. But there's a problem. The entire school has just 20 students, and now you hear the government might shut it down. The next school is several kilometers away and uses a different language that your child has grown up with. But what choice do you have? Around you, families are stopping at one child or choosing none at all. And without children, how do you fill classrooms? This, in short, is Russia's quiet demographic tragedy. Every year, nearly 500 schools shut their doors. And this is just one of the ways in which Russians are feeling it on a personal level. But the thing is that the crisis isn't unique to Russia. South Korea is paying its lonely youth to go out on dates. Japan now sells more adult diapers than baby diapers. And to curb China's deficit of brides, women are being trafficked into the country. So what makes Russia's population crisis so unique? This is Now You Know. I'm Ananya Dutta. Let's get started. Russia's demographic decline isn't a sudden collapse. It's a slow-motion car crash that began decades ago. Harley Balzo of Georgetown University maps the historical stress points.
It's really the last century, not just the last decade. I mean, Russia had a famine in 1891-92. That's why I'm in America. My grandfather was touring with a boys' choir. And when he realized that there was a famine in Russia, he just stayed in New York. There was another one at the end of the Revolution, Civil War, another one with collectivization in the 30s, and a very serious population loss in World War II. And that has echoed every quarter century since. There was a smaller cohort of women every 25 years, and that is hit again in the Putin era, along with some seriously flawed policy and, of course, the war.
So each decade added a new wound to Russian society. Professor Andrei Korotayev, who grew up in Moscow, says that there were clear signs since his childhood.
I had, already as a child, I had some feelings that something is going wrong because I grew up in Moscow, and in my class, practically no children had brothers or sisters. And all of the families which we knew had only one child.
Let's begin in the year 2000. The 1998 financial crisis was still afresh. The government had defaulted on its debt. The ruble had lost 2/3 of its value. People queued outside closed banks, terrified that the little that they had would be gone. Teachers, doctors, soldiers all went months without pay. At a time like this, Vladimir Putin entered the golden gates of Kremlin in a black suit and gave the first of his many national addresses. Within the first minute of his speech, he cited the falling birth rate as the most serious problem that Russia was facing. He said if the trend continued, the survival of the nation would be threatened. Putin's words seem to have come true, and unfortunately, the threat is now at the doorstep.
It was clear that at the turn of 2020, we would inevitably face grave demographic problems.
The number of babies born in the country this February was the lowest monthly figure in over 2 centuries. That's 200 years. This is because the birth rate per woman is just 1.41. Whereas 2.05 is what is needed to maintain a population at its current size, not even more. So the graph is destined to fall. Deaths have already outpaced births year on year. Incidentally, the last time Russia conducted a national census was back in 2021. Maria Domanska, someone who closely studies Russia's domestic politics, sees a deliberate plot behind the delay in conducting the census.
The government is hiding statistics, not only in the sphere of demography, in the sphere of economy too. Russia has a huge demographic problem. I mean, it's facing a demographic crisis, in fact. And this is for a very basic reason, and this is going to sound really terribly, but the Russian government is killing its own people.
We will come back to where the government stands on the issue, but why are Russian couples refusing to have kids? Yes, there are the universal reasons. The cost of living is rising, demanding jobs leave no time for parenting, and the future feels uncertain with climate change. But Oleskia Kondrakina, an expert in economics and finance from Moscow, who is raising her children all by herself, says that something deeper is at play here.
The first problem here is to find a couple nowadays, because it's really difficult to find a partner in your life. But if you quite successful in this case, young people tend not to give birth to babies because, first of all, they have to contribute, they have to sacrifice their resources. And not only time, not only money, but also empathy, emotions, and happiness. Because raising kids, raising babies, is quite a tough business, I would say.
The Russian government has tried to engineer births from the top down. Something known as maternal capital has been widely promoted. It's a one-off payment on the birth of a child.
Maternal capital worked very well. It is produced immediately. Immediately, it started working in July 2007. It produced immediately 20,000 more childbirths per month.
Then mothers with 10 or more children are being awarded Soviet-style hero medals. The qualifying mothers are awarded a one-time payment of 1 million rubles as soon as their 10th living child turns 1 year old. In some regions, schoolgirls who become pregnant are being paid more than 100,000 rubles for giving birth and raising their babies.
For teenage girls anywhere in the world to be having children is a problem. And they've made any propaganda to tell these young women or girls that they shouldn't have children is now a very serious crime. What they call child-free propaganda has been seriously attacked. So they don't get counseling. They don't understand their choices.
Experts say while the aim of these policies is to support vulnerable mothers, we want to ask, is money alone the problem?
But I don't see the problem in the decreasing population around the world, because not all people are happy and not all people live above the poverty line, because there are millions, maybe millions of people who live below poverty line. And we have a lot of people in Russia who lives below poverty line. So the question is not the size of the population, not the number of people who lives in your country or around the world. The problem or the question is how happy they are, what can they afford, how educated they are.
And most of these policies you see are targeted towards the women, even though raising a child is a family duty. The Russian government is indirectly putting the burden of solving this crisis entirely on the women, saying the more children you have, the more respect you have for the Russian traditions.
The values that define us include unity among the Russian peoples, a commitment to truth and justice, mercy, humanism, strong families, and a love for children. Therefore, it is important to counter attempts to impose attitudes that destroy our values on our citizens, especially young people.
The consequences of this are catastrophic. In a conservative society like Russia's, child rearing falls mostly on mothers. So when the government pushes for quote-unquote traditional values, it's really pushing women back into the home. Many are forced to curtail their careers, ambitions, education. And this sacrifice then is glorified from the top down as quote-unquote patriotic.
The more educated a woman, the more she will be interested in the professional career. If you take professional career of women, still it is easier to make a professional career with less children. No, perhaps it's quite clear.
Policies like financial incentives can also encourage unstable families to have children. Russia faces severe issues with alcohol abuse, drug addiction, and domestic violence. 1 in 5 women face abuse every single year. And in the year 2018, 5,000 women were killed by their partners.
The younger generation of Russians are not only being formed in the spirit of militarism. But also in schools, in kindergartens, there appeared special lessons of traditional values and traditional gender roles. And little girls are being taught that their destiny is to cook, have children, and, serve men.
Imagine raising a child in this kind of environment. Russia has one of the highest rates of single-parent families in the world, 38%, and nearly 80% of them are single mothers. And that brings us to the war. The demographic crisis has deepened after 2022 because the poor are mobilized and the rich are fleeing. Russia hasn't disclosed the official death toll, but the men dying are exactly the men Russia needs the most.
On the one hand, there are male war heroes. On the other hand, women should stay at home and wait for the heroes and give birth to as many children as possible, because then Russia will prove that it rose from its knees.
For years, Putin has tied the population to national security. And it might be difficult to understand how the war in Ukraine is tied to the population, but look at what the Russian president said just after the annexation of Crimea in 2014.
Our demography promotion programs have proved their efficiency and will continue implementing them. We'll extend them on the population of Crimea and Sevastopol. Crimean families who delivered their second or more children after 2007 will receive maternity benefits in full extent.
So every time Russia annexes more land, it adds its population to its own. The Kremlin is expected to do the same with the newly annexed regions of Ukraine in Donbass and Luhansk.
Fertility does not like things like military conflicts. No, woman would like to be just sure about the future of her husband, family, etc., to bear children. But I think to real surprise of most demographers, the war, the conflict, how it is officially called in Russia, special military operation, this did not result in any feasible decline in total fertility rate.
The country has traditionally been anti-immigrants, but it doesn't mind adding non-Russians to the Russian Federation in the aftermath of a war.
The Russian government doesn't treat people like human beings. It treats them like, I'm sorry for this word, like biomass. The war for Putin has become at certain point the main source of his domestic legitimacy.
But then our question is, what is power without the people? The United Nations Scenarios project Russia's population in 2100 to be between 74 million and 112 million. This is a decline of 25 to 50%. What happens when a population is completely halved? More importantly, what happens when women are made the instrument of demographic policy? You might end up with a society where a woman's value is tied only to childbirth. Russia's stable future won't come from controlling its women's choices. It will come from enabling them with childcare, equal pay, and shared responsibility at home. Because the real question here isn't how to make women have more children. It's how to make societies worth raising children in. I'm Ananya Dutta. This is Now You Know.